Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rosa, and as Manny said, I am the human part of lean department here at CICS. And we're going to talk today about the importance of building a lean army. Again, this is me, stuff that I've done, but the key thread in all of my experience is that I'm truly committed to continuous improvement and extraordinary customer service. As far as I'm concerned, if your customer service is top notch, regardless of who your customer is, whether it's internal or external, you're on the right track. And by the way, I do have a superpower, and I had to include it because I just had a brand new grandbaby, January 4th. I am a grandma. What's your superpower? Values that guide us. And I know it's a long list. Go through it and see if there's something that you can eliminate. Of course, you're going to be respectful. Of course, you're going to be responsible, but use humor. Let go of your ego, share knowledge. All of those things make people, teams that work well together. And I think if we could each and all of us keep these kinds of values in the forefront of our minds and in our hearts, just think of how much easier our interactions would be every day. Today, as I said, we're going to talk about building a lean army. We're promoting a culture of we versus me. We're going to talk about that a little bit. What are the characteristics of a lean leader? How to drive improvements with team interaction. And of course, there's always room for questions, comments, suggestions. I'd love to hear what you have to say. All right, so why build a lean army? What is a lean army anyway? Building a lean army is really the only way that you can generate lasting culture of people-centric improvements. Because at the end of the day, if people are not vested in this, if they don't have skin in the game, they're basically just kind of following orders. Okay, you do this, you do that, you do the other thing. And that's not the way we want to operate at all, okay? This story really is close to my heart. Machinist retired after 35 years with the same company. And when he was asked about parting words, he basically said, you paid me for my, my work, my brawn. You could have had my mind for free. So you have to ask yourselves, right? How many of us either ask our teams or ourselves kind of leave our brain at the door when we get to work and just sort of, become a drone and sort of do everything that is asked of us. And while that's important, there's stuff going on in here. Okay, we all have ideas. We all have different perspectives. And it's important, I think, to bring that into the game because to use a cheesy phrase, right? You've heard the term thinking outside the box. Yeah, maybe you can't think outside your box or you think you are, but someone else's perspective is going to open the door to new ideas and new ways of doing things. So how do we know when we're there? How do we know when we're really, people-centric and we are building a lean army, right? When people are not just visibly smarter. Let's face it, we don't all go to school and take classes and attend webinars, to get, a bunch of initials after our names. That's not the goal. The goal is to learn and grow and develop and become better all around. So when the standard becomes we over me, are you above the line? This is another slide that I use in every presentation that I do because it's so important to me. Obviously, what's in it for me? None of us are going to do things that are going to harm us, right? But at the end of the day, if we keep our own personal improvements, our own actions, our own accomplishments to ourselves, who does it benefit? Just us, okay? Share, collaborate, doing those kinds of things, it's a higher power, right? Either you benefit or we all benefit. And what better way to accomplish things if we all benefit, if we're thinking of the we. It's not about me, it's about us. How can we make things better together for all of us? I sort of had an aha moment, which led to this webinar. Last year, 2022, I did a lot of leadership courses, straight up leadership courses. And I finished up the year by doing a lean class. And I really had to rethink my lean presentation because it was basically all about lean, obviously. Lean tools, lean principles, lean thinking, okay? And I compared that to what I had been teaching all year long about leadership. And I thought to myself, you know, great CI people may not necessarily be great leaders, and great leaders may know nothing about CI, about lean, continuous improvement. So my goal in building a lean army, okay, is that we're combining the two. We're being great leaders and great CI people, or at least that's the goal. So I started by distilling the key points, the characteristics, right? A lean practitioner obviously has a full understanding of lean methods and thinking and tools and all of that. Has a real strong focus on continuous improvement. Great CI people that I know, myself included, can't go anywhere without looking at the opportunities, finding them and going, wow, you know, we should really do something about this, okay? And of course, they're able to use lean principles to solve critical problems, to make improvements, okay? Whereas great leaders really focus on inspiring their people. They want to spread that passion. They ensure that their team has support and tools to achieve their goals. But more important, and most importantly, I think, they guide teams to a shared vision, okay? As opposed to, if some of you have you know, obviously done lean projects before, as I have, you have people within the team that are necessary to complete the project with different skills, different positions, different roles. And we tend to sort of assign people what they're going to work on, okay? How about if everybody knows what the goal is, what the shared vision is? They all know their parts, certainly, but understanding where we want to go as a team, where we want to go as a company, is, again, going to open the door to people's ideas and thoughts. Lean leaders combine both skill sets, right? A true lean leader integrates the tools of lean with the human side of lean, and they build employee practitioners. But not only practitioners, they build employee practitioners who think and act like owners, okay? It's not about, oh, I got to get this done today, but I'm not sure why. No, 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 no. You know, it's relevance. You are on this team for a reason. This is why we put this team together, and everybody needs to be on board with that. And the way to do that is to guide them, to really guide them and let them understand what the goals are. So be the lean leader that starts the fire, okay? You don't want to do it alone. You can't do it alone. It's hard. So rather than giving orders, right? How about we start a fire and let people really start to think about things, okay? Put them in a position where they are going to have skin in that game, okay? Think about this. If you talk about, this is the goal, this is what we want to do. Let's talk about team. Let's talk about how we can get there, okay? And someone comes up with a great idea. Okay, I think that if we did this, we could probably achieve that goal, you know, in conjunction with and so on. So how do you think a person is going to feel about working with an idea that they came up with, as opposed to the team lead, whatever, the CI person saying, okay, this is your skill set, this is what you need to do. Okay, there's a big difference. How many of you love being told what to do, as opposed to thinking about things and coming up with what you think is the right thing to do? And in nurturing that kind of an environment, you're building a lean army. You're building a group of people who really have the same shared goal, who understand the interactions between what they do, okay, and where they fit in the overall goals of the company. When the conversations begin to change, right? When people start talking among themselves about their ideas, okay, if it's a just do it, like I said before, this is my area. I don't need approval for this. I don't need money for this. I don't need a lot of time, but I am going to, let's just talk about 5S for a minute. We're going to rearrange this so that it's easier for me to work. Okay. Now, the next person walks by and says, hey, you made some changes. How's that working out? Oh, it's awesome. You know, I don't have to waste time looking for this or grabbing for that. Wow, that's really cool. Let me try. Okay. And so it grows. I call those kinds of Kaizen projects not really projects. Those are just do it's. If any of you are familiar with Paul Akers and his 2-second lean, all he's asked of his people is every day come up with a way to save 2 seconds. Now, it could be more than that, obviously, but at the end of the day, they are thinking every single day. Their mindset is such that they want to improve not only their areas, but improvements throughout the whole company. Engagement grows. Okay, relevance grows. What I am doing is important. And honestly, I can't think of a better way to get people involved in things and get them excited about things than that. Leading with intent. A few years ago, I saw a brief video on YouTube, which was phenomenal. And I read this book, Turn the Ship Around. And this really, it inspired me from the get-go. Unlike the quote at the beginning of this presentation that, you've paid me for my physical effort, let's say, for 35 years, and gee, you could have had my mind for free. All right. That is exactly what Turn the Ship Around talks about. And it's all about leading with intent. Typically, there's a leader-follower approach when you're leading any kind of an effort, especially a CI effort, okay? I'm the CI person, I'm the leader, I've already worked out, what our challenges are, I've already worked out possible countermeasures. This applies to this person's job, that applies to the other person's job, and you're all going to do your stuff. That's the leader-follower, all right? Now, the leader-leader approach has a different twist on that. As the CI leader, right, I understand the problem that we're trying to solve or work on, the improvement that we're trying to make. I know where the opportunities are. But if I let everyone on my team know what the opportunities are, what the challenges are, what it is that we're trying to achieve, then think of each person doing a different job. And instead of saying, Joe, you are the welder, so you need to figure out how to blah, blah, blah. How about if I say to Joe, so Joe, what needs to be done? Well, our goal is to do this. All right, Joe, how do you think we can achieve that? What can you do to make that happen? And why? Well, I have to adjust this weld procedure because it's doing this, that, whatever, and it affects the rest of what we're trying to do. And again, it's about opening people up and getting them to invest a little bit in the overall project, in the overall challenge. Now you're not telling him what to do, you're asking him what he can do to do his part to make this happen. That's powerful, guys. That's super powerful. Put yourselves in that position. Someone walks in, hands you something and says, take care of this, and I need it by 3 o'clock, and you've got to make sure of this, that, the other thing. As opposed to, hey, I need this to happen. How can you help me? What can you do to make this happen? I think we would all be happy to answer that question, wouldn't we? It really gets teams invested in making the right decisions to achieve a common goal. Introducing these questions, this is language that people use every day. And I said before, when you hear the conversations change, you know that there's change happening. You know that there's an army at work here. Starting with a brand new lean team, do a lean certification training with projects. And I discovered that sometimes people didn't really know where to go, what to do. You know, the attitude was sort of what can I do just myself to make things happen? Wouldn't it be great if we could? That's the best way to understand what problems there are. And let's face it, folks, even as a CI leader in an industry that you've been for a long time, okay, you don't know what the problems are. You're not there. You're not the one doing the work. We were having a team meeting and we started with this conversation. So, you know, what do we want to do today, guys? What are we working on? What's the burning platform here? One gentleman raised his hand. He said, you know, it would be really great if we could have a water cooler in the weld lab. Now, the weld lab was a building removed from all of the manufacturing parts, all of the main areas of the plant. Okay. So these poor guys had to literally, it was a separate building, had to walk outside, walk through a fabrication building to get a glass of water. Right. Now that sounds really silly. I mean, that's far from a CI project. That's a common sense project. But at the end of the day, had we not had these conversations, wouldn't it be great if we could? Yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could get a drink of water without having to leave the building? Wouldn't it be great if we could move the inventory that's here so that we could get to the parts that we need without moving things? Wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to walk 10 feet every time I needed a widget? Then it grows, right? What's stopping us from doing it today? Is it a just do it? Or is it something that you and a couple of people in your department can do, like organizing nuts and bolts into sizes and labeling them? What if we try this? Okay, let's get some bins, let's organize these nuts and bolts, and let's see what happens. How did that change work out? Oh, it's great. Now we walk, we know exactly what we need, we know exactly what we get. We're done. This is wonderful. What should we work on next? Well, you know, I think machine shop would really benefit from this as well. Maybe not nuts and bolts, but if they organize the tools that they use or the materials that they need in a way that they're easy to find, they're centralized or standardized, I think it would benefit them too. That's the cycle. And those are the conversations that you want to be having with people. That, more importantly, those are the conversations that you want your team having, especially among themselves, as well as with other people in their departments, in their areas. It's driving improvement in a very natural, very normal way. It's not, you know, this big, humongous project and we need approval here and approval there. No, no, no. This is a mindset because this gears people up to when there is a real project, a big project. For example, introducing a new product or moving one department into a larger or smaller area because things have changed. Now you're talking some serious stuff, right? Because you're going to have to shut down production to make the move. You're going to need to allow time for people to do this. It's probably going to cost money. So you're really going to need investment from senior management here, right? How would you possibly be able to achieve that with people who are cold? People who are just, you know, what? We're changing something? Why are we changing? Okay, conversations like this among your teams, among themselves, among departments, with each other are the way that we fuel and generate improvement and good ideas for improvement, improvement that matters to the people doing the work. One of the things that we're doing here at CICS, integrating people, technology, and process into our trainings because they're all important. Now, here we've been talking about teams, we've been talking about getting people involved. Again, the human side of lean. This slide, I think, really shows you which way to go. First of all, it's for people who are new to continuous improvement to figure out what they'd like to do, what they're good at, where their talents are. All right. On the people side, obviously, you like people who are great at interaction. They're great communicators. They're people who are really can be very, very supportive. They can guide, they can coach, they can engage, they can do all of those things. Okay. The technology focus, when you think of Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma. Obviously, you use Six Sigma when you know there's a problem, you just don't know what it is. Okay, you have to find out why it's happening. That's where you need that technology. That's where you need the information. You need to be able to look at data, and you need to be able to analyze it to understand where the issue is, right? And there's some folks that are great at that. You know who you are. You love that stuff. You love stats. And then, of course, there's the process focus. And we use that with lean. There are some people, okay, who need to be able to do things quickly. And I'm not saying that every lean project progresses quickly, but typically we use lean tools when we know what the problem is, right? We do a root cause analysis. This is where the issue is. This is where we need to make our improvement. Let's just do it. And this kind of flow, this kind of flow of training helps you all right, as CI people, okay, to observe a few things, okay, in starting with a yellow belt, let's say, which is sort of an entry to CI. Okay, you get a little bit of DMAIC, you get a little bit of PDAC, you get a little bit of leadership in there, okay, and it helps you as leaders, as CI leaders, lean leaders, to see the cream that rises to the top. We all know that not everybody's an A player, right? But you can see the people who get excited about things. You can see the people who are right away thinking and talking and saying, oh my gosh, we can use this to take care of that. And wouldn't it be awesome if we could implement this here? Okay, so it helps you identify what path people want to take. You might consider somebody that needs to go to a lean class. You might find somebody who's a great facilitator and needs to be developed in that area. You might find somebody who's really, really quite brilliant at analyzing data, likes data. Okay, you might consider sending that person to a Greenbelt class. Again, it's going to enable you to really identify where the strengths and talents of your people are. Not only will it help your folks, your team, right, your employees to find their path where they can best contribute using their skills and their talents, but you will also see who your future green belts are, who your future lean practitioners are, who your future team facilitators are. And that's important. That's important because it's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole, right? It's not going to work. So you're going to figure out what pegs go where very, very nicely using a process like this. Okay, we've talked about long-lasting improvements that require a lean army. And again, I love the term lean army because when you think about it, we've all seen those war movies, right? You think about taking a hill. The commander first says, we need to take that hill. And then people go to different areas, right? Somebody's going to protect do the flank, and somebody's going to do the direct approach, and somebody's going to do communications, whatever else they need to do, right? But they all know what the goal is. So if they encounter an obstacle in their particular part of it, what are they going to do? Stop dead in the water, go back and say, I'm stuck. This didn't work out. No, they're going to think about what they need to do to achieve their part of the goal. And they're going to come to you, again, lead by intent, and say, I need to do X, Y, Z. Okay, why do you have to do that? Because in order to capture that hill, I'm not going to be able to do it this way, but I believe that if I try it that way, we can achieve it more efficiently and faster. It's that simple. We're not giving orders, okay? We're asking people, okay, so you need to do that. You need to take that hill. So what are you going to do about it? When people have skin in the game, it becomes personal. Okay, if it takes three different departments to make an improvement, let's just say perhaps the way aftermarket orders are processed. Okay, you need admin here, you need engineering here, you need the purchasing department here. You need a lot of different people with very different agendas, right? So if we don't take the steps to make them a community, to make them a team, to make them think as a we, right? If they're all thinking just in their own, little areas, they're thinking down their little tunnels. I've worked on teams like that, guys, and it's a horror show. There's no real understanding of what you do impacts this person, what this person does impacts this person, and what this person does impacts here. It's always like that. It's always human interaction. At the end of the day, everybody can have different tasks and they're doing different things and they're doing their own thing. But without collaboration, it doesn't go. Did you ever stop to think why some of the lean projects that you might have undertaken backslide? Because people were not thinking about the we. They were not thinking about what's in it for all of us. One of my favorite moments, there were in this building, we had a lot of our top welders. They basically, were poo-pooing the strong arm. Oh, you don't have to fix it. We've been doing this for years and it's not broken. You don't have to do a thing. We continued anyway. After we had, standardized the place, done the 5S, cleaned things up, we had these huge positioners to move parts so that they could be worked on. And people were constantly looking for the wrenches and the nuts and bolts that they needed to affix the parts to the positioner. So we very simply welded boxes and hooks to the positioners with the nuts, the bolts, not one, but two of the wrenches, shadow boarded so you could see when they were missing. And one of my favorite moments was when one of the gentlemen who most pushed back was standing in front of a positioner with his hands on his hips going, "Who's got my wrench? Why is my stuff not here?" And he was just screaming bloody murder at everybody in the shop. At the end of the day, he had skin in the game because he got used to working easier. He got used to it and it made sense. And when it wasn't there, oh, he had something to say about it. He's thinking about me, but the we made sense because it was there for everyone who worked on that positioner. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, we versus me is, I think, the core of building a lean army, of building a culture of improvement. And without lots of people on board, no matter how minimal their role might be, it's important because they're always willing, they're always ready. And that's where it's about. Lean leaders, which is what I hope we all will be for 2023. Not just lean specialists and lean practitioners, but people who understand people, who can guide, inspire, and manage people, who can support them to achieve what we all want to achieve. At the end of the day, 1 + 1 = 3. 1 + 1 = 3 equals nuts and bolts, processes of improvement, right? Engaged teams is bringing you long-term, sustainable, ongoing change. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for, right? That our efforts aren't wasted, that our efforts are shared by a lot of folks. If you have any questions.
So you can hear and see
I
me
can't hear
okay?
you.
You can't hear me. Other people can hear me, and if I talk loud enough, you should be able to hear me. Okay. Unfortunately for me, I'm the
I
chief cook
still
and
can't
bottle
hear
washer,
you.
so don't
I
worry
don't
about
know
it.
what my problem is. Would it be helpful if we work together?
Why don't you come
Yeah, I
down and I
think
will
that's a better
explain what
idea.
you can do.
One moment.
Folks, I'll tell you what, clearly we didn't practice this comedy routine. I mean, these are the things you can't make up, I promise you. Some people were asking about the presentation, and guess what? There's a download link for the PDF there. Overall, if you had to give me a 30-second, what would it be?
People, process, and technology. You have to have all three. You can't be just a super smart green belt who looks at data all day if you can't communicate that to people. You can't be a lean practitioner who carries out terrific lean projects if you don't have the people on board who understand the why. It's not about what you got to do. It's about why you're doing it. All right, why they are doing it. And if you don't have all three, if you're not supporting your teams in a way that gives them relevance, that gives them the freedom within the framework to make their decisions. I was working with a group not too long ago, and it was a leadership meeting, and we were talking about time management. And approvals came up. Oh my gosh, the approval process is ridiculous, so many signatures. So I was talking specifically to one supervisor who has a team of five, I think 5 people plus him. 5 people were coming to him a million times a day, getting approval for $150 refund on shipping or whatever. I said to him, pick a number. What number do you need to approve? He said $5,000. I said, fine. So let your people call the shots for anything under that. It's going to save you a bunch of time, right? That kind of communication, that kind of freedom, giving people the freedom to do their jobs without having to stop every 15 minutes to ask, what do I do next?
Rick asked, how do you initiate lean leadership to top management when you're not part of that? How do you influence people from I don't want to say from below, but how do you push up?
So if you do your job to the best of your ability, in addition to your thinking, how can I make this easier for me? How can I make this easier for my colleagues? Right?
So Ricardo asked, what are some initial questions or some initial actions that are lean oriented to turn a me culture into a we culture workplace? How might you assess the situation, or how might you persuade other people?
The first, and again, are you talking about a department or a team? The first thing you have to do is make sure that everybody understands what is our goal. We need to increase our production by 20%. All right, everybody needs to understand it, and make sure people are a part of that. It's about communication. If it's just about me, they're not collaborating. So maybe as a supervisor, go up to a person and say, hey, I like what you've done. Nice job. Tell me about it.
I really will tell you that I think that the with them answering the what's in it for me is the big deal. And it can be hard for leaders to let go, but what's in it for them is a team and a culture that is working to achieve the goals that they want in the first place.
Right.
Now, I think the challenge that you were telling me about before this was that some people feel powerless, right? And we talked about span of control. And yeah, if you're a GM, if you're a director, it's easy. But what if you're an analyst? Like I'm only responsible for, like my desk and maybe a few feet on either side. That's it.
Okay.
So how do I influence the organization? I think that maybe is some of the question that people are asking.
From a lean perspective, um, you organize your space, your actions, your interactions in such a way that they are lean, right? You begin with that. As far as an analyst goes, really think about, for example, using an analyst, why is your job relevant? And what input and output do you have? Who's downflow and upflow from you? Because those are the people that you start with, right? If somebody is giving you inconsistent data, or if somebody is great, gives you perfect data that you can analyze and do what you need to do with, tell them, that's great. How come you are so much better at this and you have it all together versus these other people? What can we do that everybody else gives me the same kind of data, right? It's, again, communicate. People aren't mind readers, much as they think they are.
Right, as much as your spouse thinks you ought to be. Think about too. So Corey suggested a book by John Maxwell called The 360-Degree Leader: Developing Your Influence from Anywhere in the Organization. So definitely take a look at that. It's not easy. If it were easy, like my dad told me long ago, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. Okay. Um, let's see. Eric's suggesting start small. Think about what can you change or what do you want to change, then build from there and really try to find like-minded people. When I'm going into a new organization and I'm trying to bring in 5S or setup or whatever it is we're trying to do, we look for the easy wins, right? I mean, certainly I want to crack some tough nuts. You know, there's people who are, you know, maybe against, you know, improvement, but you know, you start somewhere easy and you show the benefits. And I know that we're getting traction when we're creating the pool and somebody else comes up to me in a different department and says, "Hey Manny, when you gonna come and 5S my area?" And the short answer is I don't 5S anybody's area. I help other people do it for themselves. Because 5Sing somebody else's area is like cleaning your kid's room. Nobody appreciates it. It's a waste of effort, and you know, it frustration at the end of the day.
Well, there's no motivation for them to maintain
So
it.
it's right.
When it gets bad, you're going to come back and do it again.
That's exactly right. So, um, you know what? It's really continuous improvement, that little bit every day. Make it better. And remember, it's a journey. Make it with people. And I think that's what Rosa is reminding us of.
True.
Um, any last thoughts of wisdom or anything that you know will make everybody visibly smarter when they leave here?
Are you above the line? We over me. If you aren't, get there, because that's where you grow.
Are there any ideas on how to create a we attitude between different locations, even if they have nominally the same goal? I'm talking to somebody else, and they're saying that the Miami location, they look at things differently than the New York location, and it's like speaking two different languages sometimes.
Again, it's personal interactions starting out. I had an opportunity, long story, with a new ERP system. So I was working, troubleshooting with a lot of different departments, and I got to know a lot of people in our sister company. And that's what it came down to, you know, being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, what's going on, Lisa? Maybe you can help me with this. Or, hey, I need your help. I've got a problem over here and I'm not, you know, confident enough in the system to do it. It truly is about asking people to help. You'd be surprised how many people are happy to help, like thrilled that you asked them. I don't think, I can't even count the number of times that I've gotten a rebuff saying, no, you know, it's your problem, you fix it. No, it doesn't work that way, especially with different locations, because they are in the company, our sister company, they are way stricter in terms of, you know, thinking inside the box.
You know, I remember when you were talking to me about some of the training you were doing. I'm like, okay, we're touching people, 10 or 12 people in a class at a time, and it got to the point where you know, it got to the point where 1 out of 3 people were part of the Lean Army, and then it was 2 out of 3.
And it was awesome.
And at that point, then, you know, like when you're part of the 1 out of 3 in the Lean Army, it's like you're outnumbered. People can say, "Oh, you those crazies in the corner."
Yeah.
When it's 2 out of 3,
Yeah, it's a thing.
it's all of a sudden now the naysayers are
And what's really cool is that, you know, not me, not the CI leader, not the supervisors, but, you know, just regular people, regular operators, whatever, would go through another area other than their own, and they would call folks out on stuff. Go, hey, you know, why is this has been sitting here for the last 3 days? What's going on here? Awesome, because that is empowerment. The fact that they felt confident enough as they're walking through the shop to see something and say something. That's huge. And you're not tattling on people, you're basically talking with them. Hey, wouldn't it be great if we could get rid of this?
The way I look at it, you spend about a quarter of your time during a week, 168 hours in a work week. If you spend 40 hours at work, ha ha ha, that's 25% of your time. That's actually more time a week than you spend at home, probably.
Yeah.
So why not make it as interesting as possible? I mean, just because your sentence for work is 30 years to life, that doesn't mean it has to be hard time, right, folks? So anyway,
You have my information. Feel free to email me your questions. Obviously, we didn't get to all of them.
right, folks. So just remember, keep some of Rosa's inspiring ideas in mind in how to you know, I hate to say be the change or be the leader you want to be, but you know, you have to start somewhere, and all you can control is yourself and maybe just the space of your desk and a little couple feet past it, but it starts there.
Be
Find
the
some
leader
like-minded
you
people.
would follow.
There you go. Okay. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Safe travels if you're heading anywhere, and go do good things. Bye now.